Hi, everybody, and welcome to this month's e-commerce network meeting that we are hosting together with the Swedish Chamber of Commerce in China. This time, we're going to talk about B2B e-commerce. My name is Simon Kai from Triple Digit, and together with me, I have
Helena from Empress Consulting. Okay, so we will cover a few topics today. One is a little bit of an introduction to the B2B e-commerce market in China. We will look a little bit closer at one of the biggest e-commerce platform for B2B business, which is called 1688. And we will also look into consumer sales through B2B, through JD and Tmall Global. So let's first have a little quick look at the B2B market in China. So we know that the e-commerce market in China is very huge compared to the rest of the world. But what we might not know is that the B2B e-commerce actually stands for a big part, around 70% in 2020. And we can also see since the pandemic happened that traditional sales actually has shifted to online. Especially because there's been a lot of events that's been canceled, exhibition doesn't happen, it's hard to meet face to face. So instead, a lot of purchasers for bigger companies now started to go online to do their purchases. We see that this market is growing around 10% every year, and there are certain categories that are growing a little bit faster than others. For example, MRO, which is maintenance, repair, and operation. So it means that people are buying these services online, and then actually it will take place offline. And there are different channels that the B2B e-commerce is happening in China. One is that the company will have their own platform online, their home website, where their customers will log in and do their purchases. This is maybe a bit more common for big companies like, for example, 3M, and that already have a big customer base, and they also have the muscles to build the system that they want, and they can customize it. There are also generic marketplaces like 1688 that we will have a look at. And they cover a lot of different categories, and it's good because the traffic is already there. However, you as a brand cannot customize the marketplace as you want it to be. And there are also specialized marketplaces, which means, for example, there can be a marketplace just for automotive products that has customers from all over the country and that are specializing automotive sales, for example, forest stores. So these forest stores can then log in on this platform and buy whatever they need, for example, oil, that they then will resell to their end customers. We also see that social commerce is popular among B2B business, and then I think WeChat is the biggest platform. So here, a brand can have their own WeChat account, but they can also run their CRM here, and their B2B customers can log in, place orders, read information about their products, and so on. And one of the biggest marketplaces for wholesale business in China is called 1688. It's actually similar to Alibaba.com. It's also founded by Jack Ma and Alibaba, and was actually founded before Alibaba.com that we are more used to in the West. And the platform, as is owned by Alibaba, they have a lot of good technology that they are sharing with their customers, so they can also enhance the supply services like procurement, also production. What is the demand out there? A lot of data that the brands can use to roll out their new products as well. They have 16 different categories, everything from raw materials to home appliances. And we will have a look at next page, but the design and content creation on 1688 is actually very identical to like the B2C Tmall and marketplaces that we've been looking at before.
Helena. I have a question
Yes.
here about 1688. So do you also use an app to make like browsing around, or is it like more website based?
Yeah, so here it's you can log in both on the app and online. And I think previous maybe more people were doing it online since the purchases are actually people sitting in the office, so maybe it's easier to do it on the computer. But as you can see here, this is from their online app, which is also I think very common because in China a lot of people are usually on their phones even if they're in the office. So here we can see one example of a store. It's SKF, which is a Swedish very well-known brand that do bearings. And we can see here that the design is very, very similar to Tmall. We can see how many fans they have. We can also see actually how many distributors they have as well. So by having a store here, you can also connect your distributors around the country. So for example, if you have a customer in Chengdu, and you can then link them to your offline distributor there. So even if this is an online store and you can do purchases online, it's also a good window to actually market yourself, and then maybe do the business like how you usually do it. But we can also see that the stores here have coupons, offerings, and gifts if you buy something from them. So if you buy for more than 5,000 RMB, example, you will get a book and a pen and something extra.
Can you make the order directly in the app, like
yes,
Tmall?
So you can see here the second one. You can make the order. You can see how much it costs to get the delivery, and that it will be sent within 3 days. You can see the price online. So here's the 22.60. I know this can be a little bit difficult maybe for B2B brands or industrial brands to actually share their prices online. But this is the way where the market is going now, and transparency when it comes to pricing, it's getting more and more important as well. We can also see here, this is the product page. So this is basically they've been listing all the information that a purchaser for the product actually needed to have. So you see it's a lot of information that we probably don't understand. But that means that the data should be enough for a purchaser to actually make the purchase here. And of course, maybe they will not buy a lot from the beginning, but at least they can buy samples, and when they're satisfied, maybe they can make arrange a cooperation between the brand. But then in the future, if they want to order more, then they can then link them to do it on their actual homepage, on their e-commerce store, flagship store. Okay, I used to work with a few stores that were having brands that were having stores on 1688, and maybe their sales was not so big, but it was a very good platform to collect leads that they could then use later on. Okay, and then Simon, what about consumer brands? They're also doing some B2B business.
Yes, you're right. So we have been previously talking about all these B2C platforms, right? But it should be mentioned that also they're doing B2B. So for example, if we talk about JD, they actually have a very mature B2B business, because you could compare them a bit to Amazon. So they have their own logistics, and they have their own warehousing, and they can actually help a brand to also sell, right? So you as a brand, you can just simply sell your product to JD and deliver to the warehouse, and they will take care of everything from store promotions and to fulfillment to logistics, and they will take care of everything basically. But it should be said that they're quite picky. I mean, usually when you use JD's own stores, you buy brands that are already quite recognized in China, and usually the unit price is not that high. So for example, you guys can imagine like Procter & Gamble's Head and Shoulders shampoo, that would be a typical product which people buy on JD, because they've recognized the brand, and they recognize that JD can deliver sometimes, the same day. So it has a very strong competitiveness. So that's the upside, but the downside is, of course, that you're much in the hands of JD.com, right? Like they decide basically how much to sell, when the promotions are being made, and how your product is displayed. So for example, a bad situation would be that they display your product together with maybe other brands which you wouldn't consider as at equal level as your brand, right? So they become sort of a different brand promotion in China compared to maybe what you have on other markets. But obviously it's a good channel if you already have strong brand recognition in China. Maybe you also already have a flagship store where you're selling quite well, and then you want to sort of branch out and also do the B2B business with JD, and you can generate additional sales on other channels in addition to your own flagship store.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have similar for Tmall Global.
Yes, exactly. So before, we talked about brands opening flagship store on Tmall Global, but also Tmall Global has a B2B business, right? But that's relatively small compared to JD.com because they are, not focusing a lot on that area. But obviously, that is also a possibility, right? If you have our firm brand, you don't have a trademark in China, and you want to sort of sell quickly and take low risk, then you could sell to Tmall Global, the B2B team, right? But it should be mentioned that from our experience, they're very picky when it comes to brands. So basically, they will only buy brands that they know are selling in China. So it's like, difficulty for brands to get the products inside the Tmall supermarket, Tmall Global supermarket. So that's the downside. Also, if you're like a premium brand that we usually see from the West, right? That you want to sort of convey your brand identity, your story, which is done through Tmall flagship store, because then you build your store, right? So similar to your own homepage, you can have videos and visuals that convey your brand representation. While if your product is on Tmall Global supermarket, right, the B2B side, then you're basically displayed just like any other item, right? So there's no space for the brand identity, and also just like JD.com B2B, the pricing is out of your control, and you can sometimes be problematic. For example, we have one case where we have one quite premium brand, right? They have their own Tmall flagship store, but then they realized that they saw their product being sold on Tmall Global supermarket also, and then they were asking like, how come, right? But then what happens is that Tmall Global, because they don't require you to have a trademark in China, they bought the product from one of their distributors in Europe. So that's how they got allowed. So you could argue that ethically they are also, not so much respecting the individual brands, right? They are more focusing on like, how can we generate more sales? So that's another risk with the Tmall Global B2B store.
Yeah. So Tmall Global can then basically buy from anywhere your product. So it's good to check this Tmall supermarket before you launch in China, because if they are selling for a lower price, it can be hard, I guess, for you as a brand to bring it up.
That ruins a bit the brand image, right? If they're selling half the price at what you're selling in the flagship store, then consumers will think that you're not the higher price point brand.
Yeah, but could it also be a good way to test the market before you enter China, to go through Tmall Global, since the investment, I guess, will be much less?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if Tmall Global, the B2B side wants to host your products, I think it's a good way to try out the market, right? It depends obviously which kind of product that you are selling, but if it's the item is not too high price point, it could be a good way to try out the market and see the demand.
Great. So what do we think for the future? How will the B2B e-commerce market develop?
Yeah, I think you should focus on the B2B side, right? The not the consumer side, but the business purchasing
more
side.
Like the industrial, the industrial side. I think you're right. We can already see how the market is growing and how big it already is. But I think especially since the pandemic, it has made people, getting into new behaviors, especially the purchasers. I think they probably still like to meet face to face, but we know it's hard in China right now, and we don't know what the future will look like. But when you get into a new behavior, it's easy for you to stay there, right? You don't have to travel. You can still be, in your office or on your phone. to make the purchases. And the transparency of the pricing, I think, is also very interesting, because if people start to get that now, that means they will require this in the future as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I think that's a big plus, right? When you do the B2B business, that you actually are able to easily compare the similar products and get the pricing transparency.
Yeah,
From
it's very,
from the consumer side, I personally think that it will probably not grow a lot, right? Because
yeah,
I think most brands they want to have their own sort of touch on how their brand is being perceived and control the pricing as well. So I
yeah.
think maybe just brands that are, you know, maybe focusing on volume and a
Mm.
lower price point that will go more with the B2B business.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to win in China, you need to invest a lot with your brand, and then yeah, you will need your own channels.
Yeah,
Okay, great. So our next topic will be, we will discuss the Double 11 results. Double 11 has already happened, but we will discuss the results next time.
exciting.
Exciting. Okay, thank you very much. And if you would like to get in touch or join our network, you can contact either me or Simon.
Thank you
Okay,
guys. Thank you for
thank you.
listening.